Peyton Manning showed up in Chattanooga last week after the shooting there. Very typical of Peyton Manning. He goes where he's needed. He is a Tennessee guy. He knew those folks could use a lift. He went there, and in the aftermath of a very tragic incident, he brought a few smiles to people's faces. This is typical of this guy. How special is he?
He's very special, and sometimes, I admit, I've been a little frustrated with Peyton in that I don't know how deep the roots to Denver, Colorado actually run. But this example in Chattanooga says a lot to me about who Peyton Manning is. He doesn't just walk into a community like Denver, and he contributes, but he doesn't call it home. But once he calls it home, he's there for the homies. And that's why he goes to Chattanooga, because he cares with all his heart about that part of the country.
You guys talk about him being showed up. He has a place in Chattanooga.
Sure.
He and his wife have a place in the Smoky Mountains. So it wasn't like he dropped in from the sky.
That's where they were.
Well, his wife is.
That's where they were when they made the decision to come here.
Well, and his wife is the part owner of the Memphis Grizzlies in Tennessee.
Yeah. So he's got real connections to Tennessee. He can run the Tennessee Titans. He can become John Elway with the Tennessee Titans. He genuinely does that. That is a family thing that was passed on by Archie. Archie's a big charity guy. That started. The family really gives back. I mean, I've known them for 50 years almost, and so it's important to all of them in the family, starting with the matriarch of the family. And I think that that when the Aurora shooting occurred, and it's in the news of what's just happened, he was out there helping that. He donates money, even though he's not fully committed to Denver in terms of living here forever. I know this. He finds it really comfortable living here. He's fine. He's got a place in Miami Beach. He's got a place in Chattanooga. He likes it here. I think it's going to be determined whether he stays here about his kids going to school. Where does he want his kids to go to school? And you're going, this is not about sports or anything.
No, that's sports works like the rest of real life.
Does he want them to grow up in Tennessee? Does he want them to grow up in Indianapolis? But he sold his place in Indianapolis. Does he want them to grow up in Colorado? I think the more that he's here, the more he likes it, because he's told me he's found a couple of restaurants, and he's told me what they are, and I'll leave him to that. But he said where he's really comfortable going to those restaurants. And we're not talking about the high-profile places that most people go to, Elway's or Del Frisco's or Shanahan's or whatever. He's got his neighborhood kind of place. He and Eli, the most amazing thing to me was after Katrina happened, they chartered an airplane and they took thousands upon thousands of boxes and were participating in the relief. That just shows you that they're genuine about it.
The first couple of years I was very interested to see how integrated he would be in the community, how well he would incorporate himself. And then I was a little disappointed because he would get invited to a lot of stuff that he didn't show up to, but then the longer he hung around, the more he showed up to. Guys, we have to understand, he's got deep, deep roots in New Orleans, deep roots in Tennessee, deep roots in Indianapolis. We haven't even mentioned that. You only have so many roots to go around, you know?
That's true.
I'll be surprised if he stays in Denver when it's all said and done. You know why? This is John Elway's town. But Indy can be his town.
I don't think,
or any town in Tennessee can be his town.
Why would it? I mean, I think the way to bet is Tennessee, because both sides of the family have connections there.
And a lot of it will have to do with what he's doing post-career.
Okay.
If he's running the Tennessee Titans, he's in Tennessee.
He needs to be the governor of Tennessee.
And he can be, just like the other guy could have been the governor of this state.
Yeah.
Right. This is what I like about the Chattanooga deal, or the Katrina deal, or anything we can cite, is that Peyton Manning is often stereotyped or drawn as the cerebral quarterback, the quarterback who's a robot, the quarterback who's thinking man's quarterback. But this is an expression of his heart. And his heart is, as good as his head is, his heart's for real and the good stuff,
and
too.
You know what else is nice about it? He does a lot of these things quietly.
Well, that's what
you don't find a press release coming out like you did with that other guy who wore number 15. Every time he rescued a dog, they put out a press release that Tim Tebow is here right now, and this is what he did.
Let me go back to what you said about Peyton. You said he didn't show up for a lot of things. he doesn't not say I'm coming and then doesn't show up.
Right.
He doesn't accept the invitation.
Right.
He picks his spots, and he likes to pick his spot. It's sort of like Elvis.
Peyton is like Elvis?
We got Tim Tebow in the conversation.
Thank you very
Elvis
much.
would donate to all these. He'd buy cars for people. You're old enough to remember that.
Sure.
And he would.
Cadillacs.
Growing up in Memphis, he bought Cadillacs for people here in Denver. Radio announcers who said, "Why don't you buy me a Cadillac?" Called him.
Policemen.
But Elvis did a lot of stuff in Tennessee without it really being known. He really donated to charities and showed up at charity events and things like that when he didn't have to. That, having grown up there, I'll defend my area of the country. People really do give back, and he had that kind of Mississippi, New Orleans kind of where you do try and help others around him, and that's carried through. But I'm not so sure he won't stay here, depending on what he does afterward, because I think he's going to like his kids being in school, because we've all had kids in school here.
And guys, he's very much like John Elway in that regard. You know, in the 16 years John Elway was the quarterback here, he would be asked, much like Peyton, to show up at one charity event after another.
Of course.
And you know how many times John Elway charged to show up at any of those events?
Nothing.
Zero.
None, yeah.
Never charged, because John understands community, still understands community, and so in that regard, the two of them are very much alike.
Yeah. So I mean, we're very fortunate on a number of different levels to have had him here, and we'll find out. You know, because you're talking about it, and I don't say this. We don't know about Osweiler, how good he's going to be as a quarterback. He hasn't been in the. Have you ever seen him at any event?
No, and he'd be noticeable.
He
shows up once in a great while, but he's not. He's
think,
also not asked to go to a lot of them because he's not the starting
quarterback. Wouldn't you think he'd
quarterback.
be a little bit more? He's supposedly the heir apparent, so you know you kind of. I mean, there's deals all the time. Von Miller, maybe they don't ask him, but or maybe he spends all of his time back in Montana.
Could be. That segment sponsored by, of all people, John Elway Chevrolet, Colorado's #1 Chevy dealer.